Long ago, in a loving family, there lived a boy named Joseph. Joseph was kind, thoughtful, and full of dreams. He loved his father very much, and his father loved him too. One day, Joseph's father gave him a beautiful coat made of many colors. It was bright, special, and carefully made. Joseph wore it with joy. But Joseph had older brothers. They worked hard in the fields, and sometimes they felt forgotten. When they saw Joseph's colorful coat, their hearts felt heavy. They did not understand why Joseph was chosen for something special. One night, Joseph had a dream. In the dream, the stars in the sky bowed down to him. Joseph did not know what the dream meant, but it stayed in his heart. He believed God was showing him something important. One day, Joseph's father asked him to check on his brothers in the fields. Joseph happily went, not knowing what would happen next. When the brothers saw Joseph coming, they whispered among themselves. Their hearts were filled with jealousy instead of love. They took Joseph's coat and sent him far away. Joseph felt scared and confused. But even then, God was with him. Joseph traveled to a new land, far from his home. Everything felt strange. The language was different. The people were different. But Joseph chose to trust God. Day by day, Joseph worked with honesty and kindness. He helped others. He stayed patient. And God blessed him wherever he went. Even when life felt unfair, Joseph did not give up. He remembered his dreams. He remembered God. As time passed, Joseph grew wiser and stronger. God gave him understanding and favor. Soon, people noticed Joseph's good heart and wise words. Joseph was trusted with important responsibilities. Many years later, a great hunger came to the land. People traveled far to find food. One day, Joseph's brothers arrived. Not knowing who he had become, Joseph recognized them. His heart felt many emotions. But instead of anger, Joseph chose forgiveness. He said, "What was meant for harm, God used for good." Joseph forgave his brothers and welcomed them with love. Their family was reunited. Tears turned into smiles. Pain turned into healing. Joseph learned something important. Even when people hurt us, God never leaves us. Even when life feels unfair, God is working quietly. God can turn sadness into joy. God can turn waiting into purpose. And so, Joseph's story reminds us, trust God in every season. Be kind even when it is hard. Forgiveness brings peace, and God's plans are always filled with hope. Joseph's story doesn't end with a coat. That coat was special, yes, but it was just the beginning of something bigger, something that would teach him patience, trust, and hope. When Joseph's brothers saw the coat, envy and anger bubbled inside them. "Why does he get all the attention?" they whispered. "Why does Father love him more than us?" And their whispers grew louder, carrying the heavy weight of jealousy. One day, Joseph's father sent him to check on his brothers, who were tending the flocks far away. Joseph walked through the fields, the wind playing with his hair, the bright coat catching the sunlight. He didn't know it yet, but this walk would change everything. When his brothers saw him approaching, their jealousy could no longer be contained. They whispered, plotted, and before Joseph could even speak, they threw him into a deep pit. Joseph's heart raced. He wondered, why is this happening? Did I do something wrong? Even in the pit, Joseph remembered something his father had told him. God has a plan for you, Joseph. Trust in him, even when the path seems hard. Days passed. Joseph was sold to travelers heading to Egypt. The pit seemed endless, and fear tried to creep into his heart. But Joseph held on. He remembered the coat, yes, but more importantly, he remembered the lessons of faith and trust. In Egypt, Joseph faced new challenges. He worked in Potiphar's house, learning responsibility and humility. And when false accusations came, Joseph did not give up. He held on to the truth and trusted God's plan. Over time, Joseph's wisdom grew. God gave him the ability to interpret dreams, not just any dreams, but the dreams of Pharaoh himself. Through this gift, Joseph prepared a whole nation for years of famine. And when the famine came, it was Joseph's brothers who came seeking food. They didn't recognize him at first, and Joseph had the power to respond in any way. But instead of anger or revenge, Joseph showed mercy. He said to them, "Do not be afraid. God sent me before you to preserve life. What you meant for harm, God used for good." And so, Joseph's journey teaches us that even when life seems unfair, even when jealousy, betrayal, or fear surround us, God's plan is at work. The colorful coat was just the beginning of a story about faith. Every challenge Joseph faced prepared him for a greater purpose, and just like Joseph, sometimes the hardest moments in life are stepping stones towards something amazing. So, dear friends, remember this: your uniqueness is a gift. Your struggles are not in vain, and every step, even the ones that seem scary or unfair, is part of a story only you can live and share. And as Joseph's story shows us, faith, courage, and forgiveness can turn even the deepest pits into pathways for greatness. Joseph's Egypt journey continued, with each new day teaching him kindness, patience, and wisdom. He helped Pharaoh understand the dream about 7 fat and skinny cows, which meant 7 years of excess followed by 7 of famine. Pharaoh respected Joseph's wisdom and appointed him to manage food for the kingdom, while Joseph worked tirelessly to store grain, share knowledge, and prepare for the impending famine. He saw that kindness, patience, and faith could lead to incredible outcomes even in difficult times. Families back home felt the effects of the famine, and Joseph recognized his betrayed brother. Joseph kindly tested his brothers with thoughtful words, allowing them to show kindness and humility instead of pride. He saw how love could replace jealousy, and the loss of his brothers filled him with hope. Finally, Joseph revealed himself, saying, "I am your brother Joseph." The family bowed and asked for forgiveness. Joseph reminded them that God uses struggles for good, and that the courage to change could lead to extraordinary outcomes. Joseph's story teaches us that life may feel unfair, and people can hurt or betray us. However, God always manages our journey, use life situations for us, and through Joseph and others, we can look beyond our struggles and see a greater plan. In Joseph's story, you can see that we can overcome challenges, be kind, and have faith in God, leading to amazing outcomes even when it seems unfair or difficult. Embrace Joseph's example and keep faith, trusting, and bravely walking through life, for God has a plan that is bigger than all of our fears or doubts.